welcome to another edition of I'm Moving to North Carolina, Now What? Today we're bringing you the plumbing edition. So I have Walter Dobucki with ARS. He's going to kind of give us the nitty gritty on things to be aware of when you're moving to North Carolina, as well as general home ownership. So I am Laura Richardson with Relevate. We are real estate elevated. So without further ado, Walter, tell us a little bit about ARS and what sets you guys apart and how you got into this.
So ARS is the largest residential service provider, second behind nobody. This year we kind of surpassed Rotor Rooter and
Wow.
who's the other one? Ben Franklin is kind of the big three, in the
Mm-hmm.
area. What separates us from everyone else is we spend a lot of time training the guys so that they can perfect the craft. I mean, it's one thing to have somebody that can do plumbing, but you need to be able to explain to the customer why things need to be done and why things need to be changed so that they have enough information to make a good, decision on what they're going to do.
Yeah, and you have a little bit of experience in
Just a
this
little
industry,
bit.
right? Tell everybody a little bit about that.
I've been doing it I stopped counting after 22. I want to say 26 years. I started when I was 16 in Buffalo working on wood water mains for, a neighbor friend of mine who was doing the plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of progressed from there. I got away from it for a little while. I started doing roofing on my own,
Mm-hmm.
and then while I was on a job doing a roof, the plumber that was on the job, saw me working away. I was by myself, nailing away on the shingles. He said, "Man, you're working too hard. You need to come down here and work for me." Kind of hemming and hawing. Let me give it a shot. So I started moonlighting. I would do my roofing at night and then do plumbing with him during the day. And I just kind of really took off to it. And then he had me doing his service business, so I gave up the roofing.
Oh, wow. So with you coming from the north to the south, a lot of times people matriculate down here because of the weather. It tends to be a little bit warmer down here, especially in the July, August months. So a question we often get asked is winterization and what they need to be aware of when it comes to their pipes, especially if the home's going to be vacant for a little bit. What can you tell people in regards to that?
That is huge, where a lot of people have the misconception because it's warm in North Carolina, you don't need to do anything. As we've seen, the winters are changing and the cold spells are lasting a little bit longer. So you need to take a little bit of what we're doing up north and interact it kind of down here in the south. So when you get those cold spells where it's, going to be below freezing or even in the 20s, you need to let your faucets drip hot and cold.
Okay.
That'll prevent any pipes from freezing. A lot of folks are switching to tankless water heaters. And down here in the south, well, it's real big for everybody to put them on the outside of their home.
Mm-hmm.
During the wintertime, that's a big problem. If you lose power, you're gonna lose your tankless, and you're gonna have an insurance claim that has to happen. The best thing to do is either call a plumber, and we'll get that thing winterized, so to speak, so that it'll last through that cold spell. Or you can go in the manual and do the winterization yourself if you're handy.
Absolutely. So something I want to come back to is the water heaters, but in talking about weather, so let's say we have a big storm that happens. How often do you guys see pipes that may seem like they're totally fine, there's nothing wrong with them, all of a sudden burst and sellers are getting flooding in an area that maybe they didn't think was going to be an issue?
Yeah, every time the winter comes and we
Mhm.
get that below 32 degrees and you add just a little bit of wind to it, something's freezing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so something that we've seen on the listing side of things, guys, if you are going to list your home and it's going to be vacant for any time period, make sure somebody, whether it's your agent, a family or friend, or even yourself, you're going back to that property and checking it out. Walter actually took care of some clients of mine that it was a rental property. So once the tenants were gone and we went to list the home, we had kind of an act of God situation where weather hit and there was a pipe that busted in the crawl space area that was very difficult to get to. So it's always good to have your plumber on speed dial for situations like that, as well as double checking the property. So let's come back to the water heater situation. So I know there's been a lot of changes recently in regards to what type of water heaters exist, as well as maybe some perks. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so they're really, our president's kind of in this limbo stage of whether they're going to do net zero or which is zero carbon emissions, which is no gas, or they're going to go push everything electrification, which for water heaters means hybrid. And the big advantage with hybrid right now with the changes, you get a $2,000 rebate to go towards the installation of that water heater, which in a lot of cases is less than the cost of a tankless. And you get the same benefits, the same warranty, but a lot less operating cost. The hybrid is the most efficient way to make hot water for your home, even compared to a tankless.
So I hear kind of I think a misnomer sometimes that tankless means instantaneous. So how often do you hear that?
Every time we have a tankless customer, they're like, I'm going to get instant hot water. And like, no, no, no. The tankless will give you continuous hot water.
Mm-hmm.
We can speed up the delivery, but you're not going to get instant. Everybody, they get mad. I'm turning on the tap and like one, two, three. That's because it's going through the safety checks. It hasn't even made sure that it was safe to give you hot water yet.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. And then I do want to ask you some questions about water pressure. So there is an actual degree that means it's too hot.
Yes,
What is that?
120 degrees is too hot.
There you
But
go.
we're as a plumber, that's the maximum that we can set your temperature at. We can show you how to get it higher, but anything higher will burn you if you're not careful.
Yeah, so typically this is caught by your inspector. So when you do your general home inspection, they're going to check for water temperature.
Hmm.
And typically there's going to be a warning if it's above that 120 mark. So how do they adjust that? Like, what do they do? If they're trying to get it fixed, not if you guys are trying to put it to scalding. We're not recommending that.
If as long as your water heater is not too old, you can go inside and adjust the thermostat setting. But we really try to advise against that if it's a 10-year-old water heater, or even in
Mhm.
that 10-year range, because you could just start making things break, very soon after you make an adjustment.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing you say is trust the expert and use the expert to your advantage.
Yes.
So, something that Walter and I have actually had extensive conversation about because this area is growing. We're seeing lots of new construction, even in areas where you never thought homes would be built, and all of a sudden there's a new phase or just a brand new community. So, if you're in a place where there's a lot of homes that have existed, let's just say 20 years. Right. So that's your resale section. And now we have a brand new construction community that's now pulling from the water and having to have stuff relayed. What kind of things should the resale folks, the people who already live there, kind of look out for in that?
If you start noticing that all of a sudden you got really good water pressure, you got a problem. Because you had low water pressure, and now all of a sudden you take a shower and you just feel like you're in a car wash. You got high water pressure, which will lead to leaks.
Mm-hmm.
It'll cost you more just to have the water flowing. It'll beat up your water heater, your dishwasher, and it'll also make things just kind of stir up a little too fast, and you'll have a lot more debris accumulating inside of your home that wasn't there before.
Yeah, so I've actually had some clients that have had that situation where maybe they've lived there for an extensive period. All of a sudden, they're going through that new construction phase. Next thing you know, their dishwasher has blown up and is
Hmm.
now all over the floor. So, okay, let's go Murphy's Law. Worst case scenario, this stuff starts happening. What do they need to do first before they call you?
Shut the water off.
Thank you. So, how do I do that?
So as a homeowner, everybody's supposed to know where their main shutoff valve is, and usually a home inspector kind of identifies it. But then when you move in, you lose sight of it.
Hmm.
That is kind of like with your gas cap. You can't put gas in your car if you don't know where the fuel goes. You can't do anything with your house if you don't know where the shutoff valve is. And that's something that you need to know, because if you're in an emergency situation, you need to get that water off. The longer the water runs, the 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 higher the chance for more costly renovations to happen.
So most often, guys, your water shutoff's going to be in your pantry in your kitchen. It could be in a laundry space. Sometimes it's in the Harry Potter closet or your utility closet. But the person to ask, obviously, your local plumber as well as your home inspector. That's typically something that we see them include in the general home inspection report.
Yeah, they go to identify where it is. That way, the
Hmm.
homeowner or the prospective buyer has an idea where it's at.
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about water pressure and how water gets from point A to point B. So, something I want to ask you about polybutylene pipes. Sellers sometimes don't know they have them, buyers don't know if it's an issue. What can you say about polybutylene and kind of the good, bad, and the ugly?
The good, the bad, the ugly. Okay. Polybutylene. If you're on a well and the polybutylene still kind of flexible, it's not so much of a problem. Where the problem kind of happens with polybutylene is chlorine eats away at the makeup of the pipe. It starts breaking it down, it makes it brittle, and that's where you have high water pressure and things moving, and you're going to be more prone to a leak. So if you're
Hmm.
on city water and you find that you have polybutylene, you really should consider doing a repipe sooner than later. I can't tell you how many folks come in, they're gutting the place, doing drywall, putting all kinds of nice fixtures, nice
Hmm.
lights, but nobody does anything to the water. 2 to 6 months later, you get a leak, and all that nice stuff's got to get all chopped up, and it never goes back the same again.
Yeah. So, guys, polybutylene was pretty popular in like the 80s, early 90s. About mid 90s, they started switching it out and builders started using a different product. It is something to be considerate of, specifically when you're talking about home insurance. Always talk to your home insurance provider and make sure that if something were to happen with the poly pipes, what is going to be covered. Sometimes it could be the replacement of the pipes. Sometimes it's not. It's only the damage that they caused. And then you actually have to pay for the repiping process. Again, this is a home owner kind of maintenance cost, but you want to be aware of what you're getting yourself into before you go under contract.
That is a good point. There's so many customers that we get when we give them an estimate to do the repair, they want to hold off and reach out to their insurance company just to find out, like
Mm-hmm.
you just said, they'll cover the damage. You still need to fix the repair for anything kind of happening. And then we're getting circumvented to call back, hey, we need to hurry up and get you out here, to fix this so that we can get reconstruction happening.
Absolutely. So I have kind of a random question for you. I'm sure you guys have had to unclog some pipes in your
Yes.
history. What's the weirdest thing that you found?
A toy with the battery still in it and the wings still flapping.
Oh my gosh. As a mom of three, I'm sure we've got one or two of those stuck
And
into some
I'll still
pipes.
remember the purple little dinosaur with the wings.
Oh my goodness. So, note to self, guys, we do not flush purple dinosaurs with flapping wings down your pipes. So, if let's say I have a tiny human that, God forbid, makes that decision, how complicated can that process be to like locate the issue?
It can be a process. If the little guy was in there having fun flushing and he's gotten it
Hmm.
past the toilet, that's where the fun can really get go. You're gonna go fishing looking for that toy.
Hmm.
We've gotten lucky for the most part where you can get in there and see that it's still kind of in the bowl, and you got a tool that you can get it out of there. But a lot of the times when it's by a little person, that toy is wedged in there. We'll have to pull it out and kind of get it up. But a lot of the times, the little person sees what's happening, and they learn from that.
Well, that's good. So, lessons from Walter here, guys. So, we're just going to hook him up with all of your tiny humans and help them understand what not to flush down the toilet. But, guys, I would like to go ahead and just say thank you to Walter. He's definitely helped me out of a couple of pickles and jams for my sellers and buyers when they were going through some issues with plumbing. If you are looking for a local plumber that you can know, like, and trust, his contact info is going to be in the bottom of this episode in the description. So, put him in your Rolodex. For all of you young folks, that's a place where you keep all your contacts. Put them in there. Make sure you keep them on standby because lo and behold, something's going to happen once you buy that house. Again, we would like you to like, share, and follow this episode if there's somebody you think this info could be helpful for. We're also on podcasts as well as YouTube. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate. All right, y'all, thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like, share, and follow us on Instagram as well as YouTube. We're also on Apple Podcasts. Again, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate.